Though many think of them as just stories, there is evidence that giants once lived on Earth and may still exist, like the two-headed giant found in the jungles of Argentina. Then there's Charles, who astonishingly grew to 7 feet 7 inches tall by the age of 21. Are these stories myths, or is there evidence to support their existence? Let's find out as we start up with a giant that was found in a Mexican cave. Then this happened.
Be still, be still. Stay still, stay still. Just be quiet. Just...
The scary-faced giant. While exploring some underground caves, an adventurer stumbled upon a sight that felt like it was pulled straight from a nightmare. As he ventured deeper into the dark, damp tunnels, something unexpected caught his eye.
Be still, be still. Stay still, stay still. Just be quiet.
A dark, slimy figure suddenly peeked out from one of the cave openings, startling him to his core. Just as he moved closer to investigate, the mysterious creature quickly vanished back into the shadows. When he posted the footage of this creepy encounter online, it led to a lot of theories among viewers. Some said it was an ancient cave giant, while others thought it was a monster awakened by the explorer's presence after sleeping for centuries. Meanwhile, a few speculated that it might be a demonic entity, trying to warn him to avoid those treacherous caves. However, there's more. Some explorers were wandering through the caves of Mexico and spotted something unusual. We will discover what they found as we look into the mysterious encounters and discoveries of some giants. The giant that battled the military.
You were in Afghanistan in 2002.
Of the cave. Where's the cave?
The tale of the Kandahar Giant is one of the most famous stories about giants. According to the story, in 2002, a team of United States Special Forces was sent on a mission to the remote mountains of Kandahar province in Afghanistan. While on this mission, they came upon something extraordinary, which was the Kandahar Giant. This giant was said to be around 13 feet tall, with striking red hair and 6 fingers on each hand. To make matters even more shocking, it allegedly had 2 rows of teeth. The giant's sheer size and appearance were terrifying, and it reportedly claimed the life of a soldier before the rest of the team managed to bring it down with a barrage of gunfire. After the battle, the soldiers loaded the giant's body onto a Chinook helicopter and flew it to a secret location. They were said to have been made to sign non-disclosure agreements, which meant they could never share what they had witnessed in those mountains. However, the story of the Kandahar Giant eventually leaked out. This raises 2 possibilities. Either someone broke the secrecy agreement, or the entire story is just a myth. Officially, no reports or press releases confirm the existence of the Kandahar Giant, leading many to dismiss the tale as a fabrication. Still, a number of people continue to believe that the Kandahar Giant is real, adding to the intrigue surrounding this legendary figure. The two-headed Patagonian giants. Cap d'Oie is an ancient giant with 2 heads, said to come from the jungles of Argentina. The name Cap d'Oie means 2 heads in Malay. Cap d'Oie is about 12 feet tall and is believed to be a real example of a giant human known as Homo giganticus. The tale of Cap d'Oie began in 1673 when Spanish sailors first captured him. They tied him to the main mast of their ship, but Cap d'Oie was too powerful to remain restrained. He broke free, and during the struggle, a spear struck him in the chest, fatally wounding him, which ultimately led to his death. After Cap d'Oie died, what happened next remains a mystery. His naturally mummified body ended up in England in the 19th century, becoming part of Edwardian horror shows. He moved from one showman to another until, in 1914, he was put on display at Weston's Burnbeck Pier. There, he remained for 45 years, capturing the curiosity of countless visitors. Eventually, in 1959, British nobleman Lord Thomas Howard acquired Cap d'Oie, and after several more transfers of ownership, the giant eventually found a permanent home in Baltimore. Frank Addy, who saw Cap d'Oie on display around 1960, recalled that the giant's mostly unclothed body had no visible stitches or seams. Some reports say that in 1974, Lord Howard gave Cap d'Oie to his brother Scott in New Jersey. In the 1930s, 2 doctors and a radiologist looked into this giant and found no proof that he was a fake. They even thought he might have been a conjoined twin. Today, Cap d'Oie rests among the oddities in Bob's Sideshow at the Antique Man Limited in Baltimore, owned by Robert Gerber and his wife. While some people believe Cap d'Oie is a fake, others think he is real. Gerber tells a different story, claiming that Cap d'Oie was found dead on a beach with a spear in his chest. Cap d'Oie's tale is also connected to other giant stories from history. The Codex Rios, an ancient manuscript, depicts Aztec warriors battling a giant named Quinamitl, which means one of the old ones. These stories suggest that ancient red-haired giants may have once inhabited the Americas, arriving on rafts from a distant island before a disaster destroyed their home. Today, some people view Cap d'Oie as a genuine relic, while others remain skeptical. They argue that if it were the remains of a giant, it should be displayed in a well-known museum. So far, no DNA tests have been done, leaving Cap d'Oie a mystery. Giant mummified finger discovered in Egypt. In 1988, a Swiss club owner named Gregor Spory took a trip to Egypt that would change his perspective forever. While exploring the area, he met an elderly farmer named NGB, who claimed to have something truly remarkable: a large, mummified finger. NGB revealed that this finger measured an impressive 35 centimeters long. He explained that it had been in his family for generations, passed down from his ancestors, who had been grave robbers. For comparison, the average human finger is only about 3.6 inches long. Spory was understandably amazed by the size of this relic. If it indeed belonged to a person, that individual would have stood somewhere between 16.4 and 19.7 feet tall. To further persuade Spory of the finger's authenticity, NGB showed him some intriguing documents, including a certificate of authenticity, a Polaroid photo of the finger, and even an X-ray taken in the 1960s. Spory noted that the X-ray appeared consistent with human anatomy, which made him believe that this finger was genuine. However, not everyone shared his enthusiasm. Some people speculated that the finger could be evidence of an ancient race of giants. Others said it might belong to someone with gigantism or another medical condition that leads to abnormal growth. There were even those who thought it could be a hoax or misidentified remains. While the X-ray and physical examination provided some support for its authenticity, the true nature of the relic remains a mystery. Without more scientific testing and expert reviews, we may never find out if this finger is a real artifact from a long-lost giant or just an interesting curiosity. The Cardiff Giant, the hoax that captivated America. The Cardiff Giant is often considered one of the greatest deceptions in American history. Despite this, many people still believe there is a grain of truth behind it. The story began in 1868 after a heated debate between George Hull, a cigar maker and self-proclaimed atheist, and a Methodist minister over the literal interpretation of the Bible. Inspired by this argument, Hull devised a clever plan to expose the gullibility of those who believed in biblical giants. He ordered a massive block of gypsum from Fort Dodge, Iowa, claiming he wanted to create a patriotic statue. Once the block arrived, Hull transported it to Chicago, where a skilled stonecutter named Edward Burghardt shaped it into a 10-foot-tall figure that looked like a petrified man. Hull, along with his accomplice William Newell, buried this giant on a friend's farm in Cardiff, New York. Instead of revealing the hoax right away, Hull waited nearly a year. On October 16, 1869, he hired workers to dig a well right where the giant was buried. The workers, unaware of Hull's scheme, believed they had truly uncovered the remains of a giant. News of the discovery spread quickly, and thousands flocked to see the Cardiff Giant, convinced it was proof of ancient giants mentioned in the Bible. While many scientists were skeptical about the discovery, the famous showman Barnum saw an opportunity. He offered to buy the Cardiff Giant, but when his offer was declined, he commissioned a replica and marketed it as the original. Even after being exposed as a hoax, the Cardiff Giant continued to attract public interest. In the end, the Cardiff Giant was permanently placed at the Farmers Museum in Cooperstown, New York. It continues to be a popular attraction, drawing visitors who are curious and eager to discuss where it came from and what it says about belief. The Giants of West Virginia. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, stories of giants kept emerging in West Virginia. Many reports described giant skeletons being found across the state. One major discovery occurred between 1883 and 1884, when Norris, working with the Smithsonian Institution, excavated mounds in Charleston. Among his findings was a skeleton measuring an impressive 7 feet 6 inches long, identified as a gigantic human skeleton. This discovery paved the way for new insights into exceptional individuals from the area. But it wasn't just the giant skeletons that captured people's attention. Along with these enormous bones, the team found many artifacts, objects that demonstrated a high level of skill for ancient times. They discovered beautifully crafted jewelry and detailed tools, each item telling a story about a society that once thrived in the hills of West Virginia. Years later, in 1959, another significant find occurred at the Cresp Mound in northern West Virginia. Dr. Donald Drew, the curator at the Carnegie Museum, unearthed a skeleton that stood around 7 feet 2 inches tall. The heavy bones of this skeleton indicated that the person was not only tall, but also possessed considerable strength. Many of these large skeletons are believed to belong to the Adena culture, known for constructing burial mounds across the Ohio Valley. Archaeological reports from various sites suggest that some individuals from this culture were remarkably tall, often reaching nearly 8 feet. However, these discoveries stirred up controversy. Major findings often lead to heated debates. Some skeptics questioned whether the measurements of the skeletons were exaggerated to generate excitement. Others suggested that the bones might actually belong to large animals instead of humans. As a result, the existence of these giants continues to be a topic of discussion among skeptics and researchers. Giants of Doddridge County. In 1930, an exciting discovery unfolded when Professor Sutton from Salem College led an excavation near Morganville in Doddridge County. While digging in the area, he came across 2 burial mounds known as Do 1 and Do 2. What made these mounds particularly fascinating was the extraordinary height of the skeletons found within them. Each skeleton measured between 7 and 9 feet tall. The larger mound, Do 2, also called the Zan Maxwell Mound, stood an impressive 10 feet high and stretched 75 feet in diameter. Inside, it contained several burials, including the giant skeletons, all protected by a layer of sandstone. This discovery linked the giants of Doddridge County to the Adena culture, a group known for building burial mounds throughout the Ohio Valley. Some researchers suggested that these giants might have been part of the Siouan-speaking tribes based on various artifacts found with the skeletons. Although these giants may not reach the heights of legendary figures, their enormous size indicates that, in the past, there were indeed people who were significantly taller than what is considered normal. Giant graves on Lundy Island. In 1856, something incredible happened on Lundy Island. Workers uncovered 2 enormous skeletons buried near the southern edge of the island. One stood at 8 feet 5 inches tall, while the other reached 8 feet 7 inches. These giant remains were found alongside other human bones, sparking curiosity and excitement. Lundy Island has a long history, often tied to stories of giants and ancient people. Its rocky land and important location have made it a legendary place, so finding these huge skeletons fits perfectly with the island's intriguing stories. At first, people thought these giant bones might belong to Vikings, given the island's links to early Christian and Viking cultures. Some romantics even imagined these finds as evidence of a race of giants. However, archaeologists have more practical explanations. They believe that instead of being mythical giants, these very tall individuals were likely just people with unique genetic traits or who had access to excellent nutrition. The Giant of Lovelock's Cave. In 1911, while a group of miners was excavating bat guano in Lovelock Cave, they unexpectedly discovered an astonishing collection of ancient artifacts. Among the finds were tools, baskets, and even bones. This discovery led to more archaeological work, where Leland Loud, a well-known archaeologist from the University of California, made important findings. By 1924, researchers had uncovered large skeletal remains, with some bones reportedly measuring up to a staggering 8 feet tall. This sparked wild speculation that these might belong to the legendary Site-Ka, a race of red-haired giants said to have lived in the area long before the arrival of Native American tribes known as the Paiutes. According to Paiute oral history, the Site-Ka were fierce and warlike, and after many battles, the Paiutes eventually trapped the last of these giants in Lovelock Cave. They set fire to the cave's entrance, aiming to eliminate the final remnants of the Site-Ka. But were these remains truly those of the red-haired giants? Many archaeologists remain doubtful, yet others were captivated by the idea that Lovelock Cave once served as a home for giants. Giant femur in the Euphrates. In the late 1950s, while working on road construction in the Euphrates Valley, workers discovered fossilized human remains. Among these remains was an enormous femur that measured an incredible 47.24 inches long. For comparison, the average human femur is about 19 inches in length. This means the femur they discovered was not just twice the average size, it was more than twice as long. With a femur of this size, it is thought that the individual could have stood around 14 feet tall, easily qualifying them as a giant even by today's standards. However, skeptics argue that without thorough scientific analysis and peer-reviewed studies, it's hard to confirm where this bone came from, or if it is genuine. While its size catches attention, it does not provide solid evidence of a race of giants. Some researchers argue that the unusually large femur could be due to a condition called gigantism, which happens when there is an overproduction of growth hormone. Without additional information about the bone and its background, the true story behind this discovery remains uncertain and open to debate. Charles Brine, the Irish giant. Born in 1761 in Littlebridge, Northern Ireland, Charles Byrne knew he was different from a young age. He stood much taller than his classmates, and by his teenage years, he began to grow at an incredible rate. This unusual growth was due to a condition known today as acromegaly, which is caused by a benign tumor on the pituitary gland that results in excessive production of growth hormone. By the age of 21, Charles had grown to an astonishing height of 7 feet 7 inches. Seeing an opportunity for fame and fortune, he moved to London in 1782, where he quickly became a sensation. People flocked to see him, paying to catch a glimpse of the Irish giant. His enormous size and gentle personality charmed the public, and he became a well-known figure in London's social scene, even attracting the attention of royalty. Despite his fame, Charles's health was delicate. The same condition that made him so tall also caused numerous health issues, including joint pain and fatigue. Unfortunately, medical knowledge at the time was limited, and he could not receive the proper care he needed. His health declined quickly, and he sadly passed away at the young age of 22 in 1783. But that wasn't the end of Charles Byrne's story. Instead of finding eternal peace, his body was not buried as he wished. Knowing that famous anatomist John Hunter was eager to study him, Charles had asked his friends to bury him at sea to prevent his remains from being dissected. However, Hunter managed to bribe them, and acquired Charles's body anyway. Charles's skeleton was displayed in Hunter's Museum and later at the Royal College of Surgeons in London. In recent years, his skeleton was finally removed from public display, hopefully allowing the Irish giant to rest in peace at last. Jock Benacci. Meet Jock Benacci, a gentle giant who watched over the Ben Nevis Hills in Scotland. Jock was known for his caring nature, looking after all the creatures that roamed these beautiful hills. Legend has it that there are two tall rocks, or tours, standing about 800 feet apart, and right in between them is where Jock used to sleep. One of the most famous stories about Jock involves a rivalry with another giant named Giacomo, who lived about 13 miles away on Tapin. The two giants were always fighting, throwing big boulders at each other across the hills. What started this conflict? It was a beautiful maiden named Lady Anne. Unfortunately for Jock, Lady Anne chose Giacomo instead, leaving him very sad. In his sadness, Jock retreated to a cave beneath the Ben Nevis Hills, where he is said to remain to this day, waiting for someone to find the key that will set him free. The tale of Jock Benacci continues to intrigue those who hear it, as they wonder if anyone will ever discover that key and bring the gentle giant back into the world. The giant was found near Steelville, Missouri. In 1933, a young boy exploring near Steelville, Missouri, made an amazing discovery that intrigued people about giants. While he was searching for arrowheads deep inside the cave, he unexpectedly discovered something: a massive skeleton buried in the cave's limestone cliffs. Word spread quickly, and by the next day, the local newspaper reported on the discovery of an 8-foot-long skeleton found in the nearby cavern. The bones were examined by Dr. Parker, a local physician, who confirmed that the remains were indeed extraordinarily large. He pointed out that while the bones were long, they were not very thick, which indicates that this giant had a lean build. What was strange was that the giant's skull was unusually small, measuring only 20 inches in circumference. This unusual combination of features made the giant's proportions quite peculiar. The discovery led to a lot of speculation about the giant's origins. Some people theorized that the remains might belong to a member of the Osage tribe, known to have lived in the area. However, the true identity and origins of the giant are still unknown today. Eventually, the skeleton was sent to the Smithsonian Institution, but, like many other giant skeletons reported in the early 20th century, it appears to have vanished from public records. The discovery of King Arthur. King Arthur is a legendary figure, often celebrated as the heroic king of Britain and a central character in medieval stories known as the Matter of Britain. Alongside him is his wife, Guinevere, another important figure in the tales of Arthur. While many people view King Arthur as a mythical character, an intriguing event took place in 1191, when monks at Glastonbury Abbey claimed to have discovered the remains of Arthur and Guinevere. According to Gerald of Wales, a historian of the time, the monks found the skeletons buried deep in the ground, encased in a hollowed oak trunk. Alongside the bones, they discovered a lead cross with an inscription that read, "Here lies, buried the famous King Arthur with Guinevere, his second wife, in the Isle of Avalon." The monks noted that King Arthur's skeleton was impressively large. Gerald described Arthur's shin bone as exceptionally long, extending several inches above the knee of the tallest man in the area. This detail indicated that Arthur was of remarkable height, potentially giving him a giant-like appearance in the eyes of the people of his time. However, some people are skeptical about the existence of the skeleton. At the time of the discovery, the abbey was struggling financially after suffering damage from a fire. This has led to speculation that the monks might have fabricated the story of finding King Arthur's remains to attract pilgrims and donations. For this reason, many historians dismiss the discovery as a medieval publicity stunt. Despite these doubts, the story of Arthur's tomb at Glastonbury has persisted through the ages. The remains were said to have been reburied in a grander tomb in 1278 by King Edward I, and Queen Eleanor. However, they were later lost when King Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries. Now, it's time for today's subscriber pick. A giant was found in a Mexican cave. Then this happened. While exploring the wilderness of Mexico, a group of adventurers spotted a giant figure at the entrance of a cave. Curious about what they saw, they decided to move closer. But something strange happened. When they got near the cave, their camera began to malfunction, making it difficult to take clear pictures. The only evidence they managed to capture was this blurry photo. According to their story, deep inside the cave, there was a giant humanoid being. Now, some might say this could just be a case of mistaking a large animal for a giant. For those who believe in local legends, it raises an interesting question. Could a giant or a guardian be hiding deep in the dark caves of the Mexican wilderness? What do you think? Could there really be giants hidden away in these remote places, or is it all just a tale? Share your thoughts in the comments. The Giants of Stonehenge. Stonehenge is one of the most amazing archaeological discoveries in the world, and it still holds many secrets. Among the many theories about this ancient site, some involve giants. In the early 1500s, a famous diplomat and writer named Sir Thomas Elyot claimed he found something near Stonehenge. He said he had discovered a skeleton that measured an astonishing 14 feet 10 inches tall. This claim quickly caught attention, sparking interest in the idea of a giant's remains being found. Elyot stated that the enormous skeleton was buried just a few miles south of the Stonehenge monument, inside a massive oak coffin. What makes this discovery even more interesting is that an ancient book with strange writings was found with the skeleton. This wasn't just a one-time story. Other well-known people of the time, like William Camden and John Leland, also talked about Elyot's find, which gives more weight to his amazing claim. The Cormer and Giant. The story of Cormer and the Giant is most famous for how he created the tidal island of St. Michael's Mount, located just off the coast of Cornwall. According to legend, Cormoran constructed the island by transporting large blocks of white granite from the mainland, with his wife, Cormelian, assisting him by carrying the stones in her apron. Cormoran would often wade back and forth to the Cornish mainland, stealing sheep and cattle from local farmers. One version of the story tells how he grew tired while carrying the heavy stones and decided to take a nap. While he slept, Cormelian kept working but chose to use green stones instead of white granite, as they were closer. When Cormoran awoke and saw the different stones, he became furious and kicked her, causing her to drop the stones into the sea. This is said to have created Chapel Rock. In local lore, Cormoran had a friend known as the Giant of Trincrum. The two giants enjoyed tossing boulders back and forth for fun, which explains the many loose rocks scattered around the area. One day, while they were playing, they threw a huge hammer for Cormoran to catch, but it accidentally struck Cormelian, killing her. She was buried at Chapel Rock. Interestingly, the name Cormoran is not thought to have Cornish origins. It may be linked to Corineus, a legendary figure said to have wrestled and defeated a giant named Gog Magog. According to folklore expert Joseph Jacobs, Cormoran was an enormous giant, standing 18 feet tall with a waist measuring 9 feet. He had 6 fingers on each hand and foot. His home was a cave on St. Michael's Mount, and he would often walk across to the mainland at low tide to search for food. Cormoran caused so much trouble that the leaders of Penzance decided to hold a meeting to come up with a plan to deal with him. They agreed to offer Cormoran's treasure to anyone who could get rid of the giant for good. A brave farmer's boy named Jack took up the challenge. One evening, he swam to the island and began digging a pit along the path that Cormoran usually took each morning. Jack worked tirelessly through the night, and by dawn, he had created a pit deep enough to trap the giant. As the sun rose, Jack blew a loud horn, waking Cormoran. The giant rushed out of his cave, only to find Jack waiting, calling out his name and taunting him. Enraged, Cormoran chased after Jack, but with the morning sun in his eyes, he failed to see the pit and fell right into it. Seizing the moment, Jack grabbed his pickaxe and struck the giant's head, killing him. In one version of the story, a huge boulder was placed over the pit, and that spot became known as the giant's grave. Local legends said that sometimes you can hear Cormoran's ghost beneath the ground. After defeating Cormoran, Jack collected the giant's treasure as promised by the grateful leaders of Penzance. The townspeople celebrated Jack for freeing them from Cormoran's reign of terror and gifted him a belt with an inscription that honored him as the brave Cornish man who slew the giant. Cormoran was the first giant Jack defeated, paving the way for him to become the famous giant killer of folklore. The Paluxy River Mystery. The Paluxy River is well known for its remarkably preserved dinosaur tracks, drawing the attention of both scientists and curious visitors. However, it became the center of controversy in the 1930s when large human-like footprints were reportedly discovered alongside these dinosaur tracks in the riverbed. These footprints, often called the Giant Trail, suggested that humans and dinosaurs may have coexisted, an astonishing claim given what we know about history. The Giant Trail features several large prints that many believe resemble human footprints. Initially, these marks were thought to be strong evidence of prehistoric human giants. However, further investigation uncovered complexities that changed the narrative. The prints were not uniform. Some showed characteristics more typical of dinosaur tracks, leading to heated debates about their true origins. Today, people still argue about whether these giant footprints truly belonged to a human species, or if they were made by a dinosaur with foot shapes that happen to look similar to ours. The mystery surrounding the Paluxy River continues to intrigue both scientists and the public alike, as they seek to uncover the truth about this fascinating discovery. Ancient Giant Ice Age Tools. A discovery has been made in England involving a collection of giant hand axes from the Ice Age that date back hundreds of thousands of years. These excavations occurred in Kent while they were preparing to build the Maritime Academy School in Finsbury. As archaeologists worked on the hillside above the Midway Valley, they uncovered prehistoric artifacts buried deep in Ice Age sediments. The team from UCL Archaeology Southeast discovered over 800 stone tools, believed to be more than 300,000 years old, buried in a sinkhole and an ancient riverbed. Among these finds were two incredibly large flint knives, referred to as giant hand axes. These hand axes were shaped by carefully chipping the stone to create a symmetrical tool with a long cutting edge. Researchers believe these tools were likely used for butchering animals and preparing meat. The two largest hand axes discovered have a distinctive design, featuring a finely pointed tip and a much thicker base. Senior archaeologist Letty Ingray explained that they refer to these tools as giants when they exceed 22 centimeters in length. Remarkably, one of the axes measures 29.5 centimeters, making it one of the longest ever found in Britain. Typically, giant hand axes like these are found in the Thames and Medway regions, dating back over 300,000 years. Their size raises intriguing questions about their use. Could they have served a symbolic purpose, showcasing strength and skill rather than being purely practical tools? While the reasons behind creating such large tools and the identity of their makers remain unclear, this site offers exciting possibilities for uncovering answers. The area is believed to date back to a time when Neanderthals were emerging and may have coexisted with other early human species. During the Ice Age, the Medway Valley would have been a wild landscape, filled with wooded hills and river valleys, home to red deer, horses, and even extinct creatures like the straight-tusked elephant and lion. Although other giant hand axes have been found in the Medway Valley, this is the first time they have been discovered through a large-scale excavation. This find provides researchers with deeper insights into the people who created these tools. Dr. Matt Pope from the UCL Institute of Archaeology noted that this excavation offers a valuable chance to study how the landscape changed over 250,000 years ago. A team of experts from UCL and other UK institutions will conduct scientific analyses to understand why this site was significant to ancient people. They aim to learn how these Stone Age artifacts, especially the giant hand axes, helped early humans adapt to their challenging environment. In addition to the Ice Age finds, the site has also revealed a nearby Roman cemetery that dates back at least 250,000 years after the Ice Age artifacts. The individuals buried here, who lived between the 1st and 4th centuries, may have resided in a villa located about 850 meters to the south. The excavation team uncovered the remains of 25 individuals, with 13 of them cremated. Among those buried, 9 had personal items like bracelets, while 4 were placed in wooden coffins. Additionally, nearby pottery and animal bones suggest that feasting rituals may have taken place during the burial. Nephilim, the giants of myths. The Nephilim are often called giants, known for their amazing size and strength.